What's happening, everyone? Bryan Peterson here again. We're going to be tacking on another episode in our how-to series in animation. Today we're going to be catching up with Tyrone and Sean. They're our industry experts and Full Sail University instructors. We're going to be talking rigging and animation. Let's go check it out. Oh, Tyrone, good to see you again.
Bryan? How are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Good.
So, rigging.
Rigging.
Let's talk about it.
Well, rigging, also known as character setup, it's where you take the geometry that was modeled and you put the control system and deformation systems in order for it to move around. So think about it as a puppet, right? Without any controls whatsoever, it's just a doll, but you put the strings to it, now you can make it move. So the models that are created, they either use triangles or squares, and hundreds and thousands of them all together to make this digital statue. It doesn't move, so what we're going to do is place influences.
Okay.
Now these influences come in different shapes. The most common ones are joints or bones. They look like little circles with a little stick on it, but they represent bones of the human body. But you can use that and place it on the points of articulation, the bending points of your character. And what you end up doing is you assign those squares and points, those vertices, and tell them by percentage, like, I want you to follow this bone 50% and follow the other one 50%. Take, for example, if we have a vertice right here at the elbow, does it move mostly this way or mostly with the other bone? So we have to weight it so it has a push and pull between the two joints, so we get the desired deformation. Here's a character. This is a Nick from one of the productions, from the Eggbot production. We started our conversation with joints. Now I'm going to throw in the wireframe so you can see that the squares that I was mentioning earlier of the geometry, and each of these points is a vertex. Okay, and these vertex have edges that connect to them, and the edges make the polygon. Point by point, we're trying to move these around to get the effect that we want. So these joints are laid out, and you can see that it's very similar to a human skeleton or a biped skeleton, right? But if I try to rotate it, you can see that when the bone rotates, the ball of the foot rotates. Same thing with the leg here, but like I said, it's connected in a way where it's keeping the feet in one spot, so of course we're gonna get awkward deformations. But you can see how the influence from the joint is affecting our geometry. For example, the elbow. We always talk about the elbows and the hinge. So when I rotate that control, it rotates the joints underneath, which then changes the geometry accordingly. So we try to anticipate what the animator is going to need, and then we apply that to our control system.
What if we're trying to do a face?
The face it's a totally separate approach, because now we're talking about deformation that is caused by the pulling of muscles and the interaction with the skin and the fat and the bone of the skull. You can still use joints, amazingly enough, even though you think joint, it needs to bend, but those are still influences. Remember that we can weight the skin to the joint, so we can approach it many different ways. With the joints, you just place a bunch of joints in the different parts of the face, usually taking into account where the wrinkles are, because that's usually the interaction between different muscles. So you'll put a bunch of joints around the lips, some around the nose, around the cheek, definitely the eyelids and the eyebrows, and then you have to put the control system to handle how they're going to be deforming up and down and all around the face. So you can use those joints for more of a local control. Just to give you an idea as to how many joints are involved in this, let me switch over the visibility to that. You can see all those joints connected. Here are the ones for the forehead, for the cheek, around the mouth. The mouth itself, there are no bones. It's all muscle. And so the muscle around the mouth can do all kinds of stuff. But like I said, we have those joints in there providing the deformation. But then how do we control it? So we have the direct connections. We have these controls where, for example, this one for the cheek, I can pull the cheek around. I can also scale it so I can get more of an inflated kind of look. Now he's got a big giant gumball in his mouth, right? So the level of detail gets finer and finer. You know? So it allows the animator eventually to block things out very quickly. So we can make some changes, but then once that gets finalized, then we can go to finer control, refine the deformation on there.
Hey Sean, how you doing?
Hey, good to see you.
So we're talking animation today.
Animation.
What is animation?
Taking something inanimate and bringing it to life.
How does the torch get passed on to the animator from a rigger standpoint?
Well, a rigger sets the character up, puts the bones and everything, kind of like a marionette, and then I'm the guy who actually controls it.
Is there certain things that you're looking for as an animator from the rigger?
I would say simplicity. I like a simple rig. I like something that's easy to use. I don't need a lot of bells and whistles. Obviously, we want something that isn't going to be cumbersome. So like if I was going to use, move an arm around or something like that, I don't want to have to switch from channel to channel. I want something that's all encompassed in that channel.
So once you received a character from the rigger, where does your process start as the animator?
Part of an animator's job is to break the rig. Actually, they give it to us to test, and then we break it.
So this character is Nina. She's kind of one of the main characters. That's why I wanted to give her a little bit more of the attitude of that she's the leader almost.
Okay.
The thing with this one was the speed of the run. I started up like a vanilla run as well, but in the end I actually shortened the frames to where they were a little bit shorter. So it gave her more of that little bit of bounce when she was in her up and downs.
Can I see the foot setup on that? How is it set up?
Yeah, sure. So in this rig, we have our swivel, we have a toe roll and a foot roll. And our roll angle, of course, a rock.
Can we see it from the side view?
Sure can. So for this foot, I don't have any roll.
Okay.
For this foot, I do, and I also have a toe roll with it.
Before you started animating this, did you experiment with it much at all, or did you run into any problems, like with the setup, with deformations or anything like that?
I didn't really run into it, but one thing I like to do when I first get the character is I like to stretch them. I want to see if there is a pinch or a deformation or anything like that. I like to animate really exaggerated. So I feel if you go ahead when you first get the rig and you do something like that, then it's a lot easier that you know where you can stretch that character and how far you can push it.
That kind of brings us to asymmetry, posing. When you're posing a character, of course you want it to look believable, but we don't want to copy reality because copying reality is boring. That's why a lot of times you'll see people get reference and then they'll try to copy what they see. And you don't really want to copy it, you want to caricature it. You don't want it to be symmetrical, even, what we call twinning. You don't want things that look robotic, right? And you want to create a visual rhythm that leads the eye to where it's supposed to go. There's a lot of design involved. It's not just moving things around, because that's really what animation is. It's not moving things, it's bringing life to it.
So this scene, I was working with a character called Dr. Tonto right here. He's kind of the bad guy, he's the villain, and we have Gasket here. He's one of the minions, and then we have Sledge here. Gasket's kind of more of the leader of the two, but in this shot, they're kind of just really intimidated by what he's asking, and they want to know if they're going to be able to do it, and they're kind of questioning that. So let's look at it.
Okay. So far on the project as an animator, what has been the most challenging for you?
I think for me the challenge is to give them kind of their own little bit of personality without, having them separate too much.
Have you run into any hiccups or anything that you didn't expect?
Just a few problems with like the rig itself, and that was going back to testing the rig. Maybe I didn't push the rig far enough. When you're working in such a small scene with such big characters, I think that's been my biggest challenge. Everything else seems to have flown really well. Like it's been a fun and exciting experience.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to learn about degrees here at Full Sail University, be sure to visit fullsail.edu. If you also want to learn about Eggbots, be sure to check out FF Miners Entertainment linked in the description below.